Welcome to Brain Pickings, the podcast where we challenge the status quo in HR and explore what's next for people, work, and organizations. I'm Leslie, founder of ZigZagHR, and I'm here to help you rethink, reboot, and retool the way you lead HR. You're listening to a special series diving into the 2025 Global Human Capital Trends Report by Deloitte. Today, we're diving into a critical shift that's reshaping the workplace, the rise of AI. Yes, AI is revolutionizing work, but the real question isn't just what AI can do, it's how organizations will redefine the human experience in a world of intelligent machines. In this episode, we explore why building a strong human value proposition, one that inspires, empowers, and supports your people, is more essential than ever. Let's dive in together with Tom Verstraete, Human Capital AI Leader at Deloitte, Belgium. Hey, Tom.
Hello.
Happy to be here at Deloitte Gateway in Brussels. Shall we just dive into the matter? Okay.
Yes.
So, Tom, how exactly is AI changing the nature of work? And what new challenges does that bring for HR leaders?
Interesting question. And actually a question we often get from our clients, and when you read in the news is, will AI destroy the jobs? That's like, whoa, yeah, what will happen? And as always, the answer is more nuanced. On the one hand, we notice if you look at the World Economic Forum, their Future of Job report, that at macroeconomic level, AI will increase the number of jobs. But of course, some jobs will increase, think about data scientists and so forth, but other jobs, like telemarketeers, will decrease or will even disappear. So the answer is there a bit nuanced. But what we do know is that regardless of the job, AI will have an impact on the tasks that people do. The tasks that people do will fundamentally shift, and linked to that, also the skills they need will be different in the future. So yes, AI is changing the nature of work. And what is also changing is what we call the human-machine collaboration. In the past, when we talked about AI, in the beginning, it was, AI will automate jobs. AI will take away tasks from people and we will automate it. Think about invoicing, think about CV screening and so forth. Today, we're more evolving now, human-machine collaboration. Humans and machines will collaborate together and AI will augment the things I do, will help me to do my job. That's where we are today. But tomorrow, maybe, we can go in a different era. Because we see, we talk a lot now about agentic AI. So AI that can take over more complex tasks that I'm doing. Think about completing a form, booking a travel, for example. If that happens, the human-machine frontier will again shift. So the whole element, the whole question is, how will machines and people collaborate in the future? So that's a bit the tension that we see.
Okay, so why is a strong human value proposition more important now than in the age of AI than it was ever before?
Because what you see, AI, why are organizations implementing AI? It's to realize a certain value, to realize a certain business case. And what we see, it can be all kinds of business cases. It can be, on the one hand, the business case that goes for more efficiency, more operational excellence. That's actually what we see most happening. It can be to be more innovative, to have more innovation in the organization. It can even be to say, look, we want to tackle our talent challenges. Talent challenges, think about, we don't find people for certain jobs. Or we want to overcome well-being, burnout challenges by using AI. So multiple reasons why organizations are implementing AI. But regardless of the reason, people are at the heart of the matter. I mentioned it's about humans and machines collaborating. To put it simply, if your people are not able and even more not willing to use AI, you will not realize your objectives. And what we notice is that the willing part is very important in AI, because AI provokes a lot of emotions. You have the believers and you have the people that are excited, like I am a little bit, about AI. We have people that are a bit, wait and see, but you have also people that fear AI. On the one hand, of course, because will it take away my job? But it's also something that we cannot control, that we cannot understand, what's inside there. So we noticed, based on research, that trust is a very important factor. If you implement AI in your organization and you don't do anything about trust, you don't have a proper change management, you don't have a transparent narrative, people will not only distrust the machine, the AI tool, but will also starting distrust you as an employer. So you end up, when you want to realize more productive, more efficiency, you end up worse because people don't trust you anymore. So that's why the people part is very important. And if you want to realize that value, you need to think about the people. You need to think or put the people at the heart of the conversation.
Okay, so what does a human value proposition actually include, and how is it then different from a traditional employee value proposition?
The human value proposition, including that AI element, what is the accounting it for? What is the impact of AI on the people, on the workforce? Traditionally, when you build a business case, putting it a bit black and white, you think about numbers. You think about Excel forms, and this is the number of hours that we will gain. This is even the number of jobs that we will gain. And the people factor is not always counted in. If you don't do that in an AI business case, you will end up worse. As I mentioned, linked to the trust. So it's important about factoring in the impact of AI on your workforce. Impact of AI of course, on the skills that you need, but also what we see is that AI sometimes or often has a silent impact on people. When we look at leadership, they are glass half full view. I think AI, yes, it will help people to have more added value tasks. It will help people to overcome, to increase their well-being, to overcome burnouts and so forth, which can happen, but they ignore a bit the downside or the silent impact that AI can have. For example, I think we all know or we all agree that for humans today, autonomy is an important part. If I want to be happy in my job, it's important to be autonomous. But think about, I'm driving a truck and I need to follow the route that is applied to me by AI. Where is my autonomy? So I might not feel so well in my job anymore because I feel completely controlled. Another example, think about a pharmacist. In a hospital, typically you have a lot of connection with people. Now, prescriptions are made with a robot and they are sent to me via pneumatic via tubes. So all done by the machine. I feel a bit lonely in my job. Yeah. So what we see is, based on some research, is that AI has a silent impact on the workforce experience. AI can even increase burnout. So therefore, it's important to analyze that and to incorporate in your human value proposition. Why are we using AI in our company? What is the impact of it? And be transparent in the narrative. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying AI is the evil and you should not use it. No, I'm just saying that as leaders, it's important to think about the impact it can have and to be very transparent in your narrative towards your people and, of course, to mitigate potential negative impacts.
So we have to be aware of the potential risk or the downside of using AI at work. Now, how can organizations, and according to you, ensure that AI empowers workers instead of replacing or even alienating them?
Yeah. What we often see is that when organizations, leaders think about the human angle of AI, it equals change management and it equals some communication and some training. First of all, communication and training is not enough in any kind of digital transformation, but for AI, it's for sure not enough. What we would suggest is think about the human angle of AI in a holistic way, in a strategic way, not just in a tactical way. If you want to apply a tool or implement a tool, do some change management, do some adoption. It's important to reflect on the one hand, like, how can I help my people, my employers, to experiment with AI? How can we help them to use AI in the right way, give them some training, not only to use the tool, but just to, what is AI about? What is it not about? What are the risks about it? So how can we experiment? Also important for leaders to create that environment for experimentation. Fail fast, learn fast. Yeah, it does not always happen. But also, we see AI comes with a lot of challenges from compliance perspectives, from data perspectives. Extremely important. But make sure you create, as a leader, that environment that people can experiment with it. So that's one element to ensure that people are really empowered. A second thing that is important is what I already mentioned: go beyond AI adoption, change, and training. What we see, we talked about that in our Human Capital Trends report last year as well, the skills of the future are human capabilities. It's not necessarily technical skills. It's about creativity, it's about curiosity, it's about continuous learning, empathy, and so forth. So when you help your people to use AI, help them also to grow these skills. Not only the technical skills you need to use the AI tools, but help them to grow their human capabilities. Okay. And the last one, maybe a bit a difficult one or a tricky one, is about rewards. What happened? Coming back to my point on the business case, you have an organization, you implement AI to create a certain value. But what do you do with that value towards your employees? Is the value for the organization, or do you also give part of that value to the employees? We see that organizations that share some of the value they gain with AI with their employees are 6 times more efficient in implementing AI. Simple example, coming back to my truck driver, there's a company doing waste management. Truck drivers are collecting the waste, and the people have the option, or you follow your own route, or you follow the AI route. But if you follow the AI route, you get a bonus, you get rewarded a bit better. So factoring that in the way you work with AI, going beyond training, can empower people to use it.
What role do you think HR should play in designing ethical, human-centered AI adoption strategies?
HR, for me, has a very, very important role in there. HR should be, as we often call it, the catalyst in a human-centered AI adoption. And actually, there are 3 roles we often see. First one is the obvious role. The role of HR implementing AI in the HR domain. Think about how can we use AI in recruitment. Obvious one, happens already. How can we use AI in performance management? More tricky one, more sensitive one. But still, so the role of an HR leader is to look about creating the HR organization of the future and embedding AI in the HR processes. Of course, stating the obvious, in a very trustworthy, safe, data-respective, privacy way, and so forth. But the role of HR goes beyond that. The second role is HR can also, or should also, pick up the role as a workforce leader, not only in the HR domain, but cross-domain in other domains. Because if you implement AI, for example, in supply chain, in manufacturing, as I mentioned, it will not necessarily let disappear jobs, but it will have an impact on the tasks, on the skills. So it's important for HR to think along with the C-suite, with the leadership, the business leadership. What is the impact of this AI on my skills, on my tasks that people have? So being the workforce leader there, of course, coming back to what I mentioned before also, what is the silent impact? How does it change the experience of the people? That leads to the third role of HR. So doing AI in their functional domain, HR domain. Second role is more as the workforce leader. Third role is the people steward. How can we help people to be successful in the age of AI? How can we help people to trust AI? But also, how can we help them to grow those human capabilities I mentioned? So that's, for me, where HR should play a role. Of course, we're saying a catalyst. HR should not do that on its own, even more than ever. We talk often about the symphonic C-suite. It's about doing it together with the other leaders, but HR being a bit the catalyst and, let me call it, the guardian of the human angle of it.
Okay, all right. Now, if an HR leader wants to start future-proofing their employee value proposition for the age of AI, what could be the first step that they should take then?
For me, it starts with the business case. As I already put a bit black and white, a typical business case, it's all about numbers. HR should be the catalyst to include that human angle. Okay, if we do this, what is the impact on the skills, on the tasks of the people? What is the silent impact? What is the impact on the workforce experience? So factor that in your business case. And even more, what do we need to do? What are the measures? What is the cost maybe to overcome these risks, and to create that mutual beneficial workforce versus employer. So that's an important factor. Start with the business case. Second element is not only building that business case, including the human angle, but also being transparent. Today, we know that trust will only happen if you're transparent. People need to be transparent about what is the tool about, what is it, what can it do, what can it not do, but also transparent, why are we going to use it? Because first question you always get about AI is, will it take away my job? Yeah. So if you be transparent, and there again, HR should shape that narrative together with the leadership.
All right. Now, in a world where AI is taking over entry-level tasks, I also want to talk with you about the experience gap that is stated in the Human Capital Trends report. What exactly is the experience gap, and why is it widening in today's labor market then?
That's a very interesting question. And we see when we talk about the experience gap with our clients and even with our colleagues, it triggers a lot of discussion. The experience gap is one of the paradoxes we encountered in this year's Human Capital Trends report. It says that on the one hand, organizations are, when they are recruiting, looking for more and more experience of people. But on the other hand, the new joiners, the school leavers, they don't have that experience and they have difficulties to find a job. And maybe to mention some figures, based on our research, our global research, we see that more than 2/3 of executives, of people that hire, say when we hired, we saw or we had people that did not have enough experience. And that's not necessarily the skills. They're really talking about experience. And what do? They raise the bar. 61% raised the bar and said for an early entry job, you need 2 to 5 years of experience, which is a bit strange. So on the one hand, we all want, as employers, we want people with more experience, but nobody is willing to give the people the opportunity to grow, to gain that experience. So that's the experience gap. We want more experience, but people are not able to find a job because of the experience is not there.
Okay, so how are AI and automation then impacting career opportunities and traditional learning on the job models?
Yeah, so AI plays an important role there because AI and other factors make sure or lead to that work becomes more complex. We already mentioned a bit, sometimes AI is used to automate, so it's only the more difficult tasks that remain, the less routine tasks, the less predictable tasks. So hence, you need a bit more experience to be able to do that. Second thing that we see is economical context, economic situation. Organizations want to be more productive, they want to be lean and mean. So they look at, maybe we should automate, we should replace that job. Hence, again, jobs become more complex and early jobs might disappear. Also, coming back to the learning part of the question, what happens? I don't have the time anymore to learn on the job because I need to be immediately to be productive because the situation requires for that. Or my team is much smaller. I have less colleagues to learn from. I have less time to look, to steal with my eyes. So that's where it becomes a bit more difficult.
Seems like a huge challenge to meet that one. Now, what can organizations then do to rethink how they define experience in recruitment and then in talent development?
Yeah. I think their leaders and organizations should not wait for the government or for higher education to take actions. They should act now. And the good news is that if you look at our trends report, both employers and employees say who should help us in closing that experience gap. It's the organization and the individual. And that's where that are the two angles that can indeed look at it. If you start with the employer side, it's first rethinking what do we mean with experience? Because today experience still, if you look at it in recruitment, it's about the number of years that you have done something in your previous job. But is that the right indicator? Maybe it's not about the number of years, but it's about the potential that somebody has. I mentioned the human capabilities, those creative, their curiosity and so forth. Maybe I already applied them in another situation, and it's just now being able to apply it in a new situation. Example there, think about a waiter in a restaurant. He or she is customer intimate. I assume they're also a bit stress resistant because they sometimes have to work in difficult situations. Might be the perfect salesperson for an organization. But with the standard algorithms, those persons will not show up. So first thing that employers could do is fundamentally rethink the way they recruit. Think about what are we looking for experience? Is it years or is it the potential we're looking for? Second element is coming back to why will we use AI? Will we use it to automate? Short-term answer, we see more productivity, so that job we can just automate, or those tasks we can automate. Or do we think a bit mid-term? Because the risk is, if you automate a junior level, an early job, you will never create a pipeline, because people need to help to grow, people need to there. So think carefully when you implement AI, and don't go for the easy, the most obvious route. That's the employer perspective. If we look at the employee, in my humble opinion, employee also has a very important thing to do there, and it's about having learning hunger. It's about the willingness, eager to learn, continuously willing to learn, and I would even put it more strong, saying willingness to reinvent yourself. I mean, what is it? 40% of our skills will be obsolete in 2030. So we need to reinvent, we need to learn skills. If you have that adaptability as an employee, I think you will easily find a job, or easy.
And if you don't?
If you don't, then I think it might become difficult indeed. And you will end up in a situation, difficulty to find a job, but also difficulty to find work in an environment, because if we want it or not, our environment is continuously changing. So that's where a bit, I think both employers and employees can close that experience gap.
Okay. Now to end this podcast episode, what is the one bold action maybe, or some bold actions that HR leaders can take to start closing the experience gap in the organization right now?
Yeah. For me, if we talk about bold action, where HR can start is reimagine work. Fundamentally rethink the way you organize work, the way you do work, the way you reward work, the way you structure work. By the way, that's not only for the experience gap. I think this goes for all the trends we talked about in the podcast. But so fundamentally rethink this. And if you look at the experience gap, starting with, okay, which tasks do we do by humans? Which tasks do we automate? How do we augment? Maybe even further, how do we collaborate even more? What is the role of humanoids, robots? What is the role of agentic AI? So carefully think about that impact. That's one element. Second element when redesigning work is, what is the role of the team? We work a lot in teams, but how do we construct our teams? Do we need to construct our teams maybe more where we have the more junior levels with a more experienced level, that they can learn from each other, they can grow together, and that because diversity there is important. Of course, you need the experience, but you also need the fresh perspective, bringing that in. How do we construct them? How do we set them together? And then a third one is, can AI be the teammate? Yeah. Why not? Because we use AI now a lot to augment, to help us to do certain tasks a bit quicker or a bit better, to write things, to translate things, and so forth. The AI can be the perfect coach. AI can help me as a junior to be more successful in my job. So why not go there? So how I look at it, if you want to do a bold move as HR, is fundamentally rethink, reimagine work, where AI is on one hand the trigger, but also on the other hand, AI can be the solution to some of the challenges, and important, and that's where, of course, HR plays a key role, put the human at the center.
All right, so it's about rethinking, rebooting, kind of retooling everything that we learned about the workplace and HR. Sounds like some very exciting years that are coming. Okay, so thank you very much for this conversation. I was very happy to have this talk with you. Thank you.
Likewise, thank you.
Now that's it for today's episode in our special series on Deloitte's 2025 Human Capital Trends. If this conversation inspired you, challenged your thinking, or gave you new ideas, well then share it with your colleagues, with your team, and with your network. Let's spread the insights and spark even more meaningful conversations in the world of work. Thank you very much for tuning in and listening. And remember, it's a great time to be in HR.